if you know me, like personally, if we've ever interacted outside of these videos that I do that really don't get too many hits, I'm an advocate for being active, good health. You know, everyone has a different definition of what they consider good health, but I am, and I think the main reason for that is because, yeah, it was points to where I wasn't in the best health. I'm very open about that, but you know, when I was in the Navy, I retired in 2018. I said, man, there's two things I need to make sure that I do. I'm not leaving here without a degree, and I always lay out the blueprint about that, and you know how I think as a service member, you should take advantage of it. If college isn't your thing now, it might be later, but different video. And I'm I'm not just going to let myself go like I did in 2000, you know, 5 and 6 and 7, you know, when I got out. I said, I can't do that. I had got up to like 300 pounds and I was on cholesterol medication and it was a real bad time. And in the early stages of that, I was blaming everybody else instead of my habits and what I was eating and things like that. But what I didn't understand at that time was, you know, your vessel and, you know, what you do to keep yourself in check. It has a lot. The outcome is just, oh man, it's tremendous because there's a lot of stuff that can happen in life. You know, life could be lifing externally, right? And the environment can cause you to feel pain, illness. Like we see it all the time. Like when stress happens, blood pressure medications, people having heart complications, just, you know, it all has to do with the vessel. Prime example, right? For those that don't know, I'm a federal employee. Uh, was remote. I took a role remote, but that's, you know, we're just kind of waiting for the next, you know, piece of guidance to drop. But I came into the federal system in May 2020. My first role, some may know, was as I ended up being the recruiter for the Army ROTC program here at San Diego State. But I took a role as the HR person, and it was a lower paying grade. I took that role, and it was a lot to it, but it was very rewarding. Really, you do everything in order to make sure you process in the student, the cadet, and everything associated with that. You're contracting them in the system, so there's a lot of paperwork. You're dealing with pay situations, like because they get stipends and things like that. You're processing bonuses. You're initiating secret clearances. You're booking travel when they have to go to, you know, the summer training. There's like airborne, air assault, and things like that, and just a host of other things. So I took that role, knowing that it was in addition to the other HR person that was there. Now, what I didn't know was I knew he deployed, but I didn't know how soon and how often. So when I started there, I think he left for like 6 months for some training, like maybe a month after I started, maybe sooner. So I had to kind of learn the role. It was very stressful. It was, and I know if I was how I was in 2006 and 7, it would have impacted me physically. That's not where it got crazy. It was presented to me to take on the role as a recruiter, and at first I was like, "Nah, I can't do it, man. I'm barely, you know, figuring out what I'm doing in this HR side. How am I going to do that?" And I wasn't in the Army, and I wasn't an officer, but eventually I did. But if you know anything about the federal system, it takes a while to get hired on. Long story short, I was working two roles as a federal employee. A lot of my time there. I had got it down, right? I had got a rhythm, but it was just a lot because on the recruiter side, you're recruiting, you're briefing at high schools, you're going to events, you're trying to bring, you know, students into the program to ultimately contract and later commission a second lieutenant. So you're awarding scholarships, you're aligning classes, so you're working with the advisors at the 5 major schools in San Diego. You got to really get on social media to kind of get word out there because recruitment during the summertime can take a hit because everyone's gone and, students are away, they're at home. You got to go to these 5 schools and try to get word out. You got to go to the community colleges, Southwestern out here, San Diego City College, all those schools to try to say, hey, this is what we have to offer. If you're looking to serve, think about this. If you're thinking about going to college. Where it got tricky was, I remember one time I was briefing at a high school for 6 periods, and I'm briefing, and in between my brief about scholarships and the opportunities available, in between the bell, I'm doing HR work, booking flights and say, hey, I need this paperwork back. We got to contract you. And the next morning, I went to go run the stairs and my watch went into AFib. It was crazy, man. I was having a panic attack. Because also what I didn't mention was during that time, I felt I wanted to be, credible in this program because I was never an Army officer and I was never, I never went through Army ROTC. I need to have education and I need to be in shape. That was my thing. If I'm gonna talk to you about me giving you a full ride scholarship and you gotta be in shape, I need to be in shape. So I started my doctorate. Best decision now, but during that time, it was the worst decision I ever made. It was just a lot. And I think knowing like now, if I was in that situation when I was, 300 pounds, I probably would have had a heart attack or a stroke. That's just how I feel. I think with all that stress and, just me not taking care of myself, I would have had a heart attack or a stroke. So I'm glad that I had got it together. I'm very, opinionated about taking care of your health, especially if you're as a man, if you're a father, partner, boyfriend, girlfriend. Like when I met my girl, I worked out. So it's a responsibility for me to stay in shape, but especially in the military, I do. Now I can't speak to it when I was an E5 out of shape, kind of in a supervisory position, but I know how I felt when I had to get in front of people and, maybe pass some type of guidance or instruction and I wasn't where I should have been. I had an issue with that. I couldn't look myself in the mirror. So when I did get myself in check, I made that promise. I'm in check. I'm not getting out of check. I think if you're in a leadership position, and a lot of people gonna have it's an unpopular opinion because life happens, different jobs, but the military is that requirement. I go back to ROTC and I'll say, hey, before I can give you a full ride, I can't be talking to you about passing the ACFT and my guts hanging over my belt. I have to present this to you from somebody that's leading that example. So yeah, I'm very big on that, like lead by example. But yeah, it's tough, but I don't do it as a chore, man. I don't do it as a chore. It's not, I'm not trying to get in shape for an event. It's because life happens. And the only thing that you might have control over is how well you're taking care of yourself. Like right now, nobody know that I was a federal employee working 2 jobs. And then in order to kind of get away from that, to be able to breathe a little bit. And it was just getting to the point where I was just, the other guy had came back and we knew he might be leaving again. I'm just like, man, I'm taking so much time away from my family. I just want to do one job. Oh, this is remote. This is cool. Took a pay cut and everything in order to do what I love. And now if you allow what you see on social media, people's opinions about federal workers to get to you, that can eat you up. So you got to take care of yourself. You got to start ignoring a lot of that stuff, man. And right now, everybody, if you look at that stuff, a lot of people like, see, this is what y'all have. That ain't helping. So you got to help yourself. Every day you got to get up and you got to be the best version of yourself for your family in order to, make sure things stay afloat. I was joking with my buddy yesterday and we're in San Diego and there was another fire that popped off. Luckily, they got it, man. These firefighters, man. Oh, I've always had a respect for firefighters, but I got a newfound respect because they got over there and they knocked it out quick. But I was joking with my boy. I said, man, either we gonna lose our house because of foreclosure or it's gonna get burned down, man. What's going on? Because I got a weird sense of humor, man. But if you allow that stuff to kind of get to you and your health isn't in check, it's going to suck more. And I'm not trying to fearmonger or scare you. I'm just being 100. get your health in check. For one, don't do it because it's a chore. Fitness and being in better shape has become very trendy. But as somebody now, I'll be 46 this year. With everything that's going on in my life, I got to make sure I control that. And, it contributed to everything else. I owe it to myself to operate at the highest possible. I gotta have a higher quality of life, because when things start coming a crashing down and attacking, I gotta be able to have some resolve. And if I'm not together, I'm cheating myself out of that. I'm cheating my family out of that. I'm cheating people that I'm cool with out of that. Like, for whatever reason, sometimes people will call me when we going through stuff, asking my advice. I'm like, I'm stressing just like y'all, but my stress is different now, because when I stress, I feel it in one of my many nagging injuries, more so my back. I just knew it was just a lot going on. So I had to, when stress happens, I get a good workout in every morning, 3:00, right? But last week I just did something wrong because I'm freaking older and I messed my back up. But I would rather that than, it be something in there. I can deal with joints, and I know my rehab and recovery process, but if it's like cardiovascular, man, that stuff scares me. So I make the right decisions, or the best decisions I can possible for that. Because you never know, man. You don't want your chest getting all tight and hurting because of what's going on in the world that you might not even be able to control. If you're a federal employee, man, you know what you do. You know what you bring to the table. Man. And looking at the negative opinions of somebody that have no idea what you do and things like that, man, you can't get yourself wrapped up in that. You just got to find a way to push forward. I was explaining to somebody that isn't a federal employee. He's like, man, all you got to do is just answer the email. I said, bro, I was in the military for a lot of years. So there's hierarchy, there's chain of command, but he owns a business. I said, so your business you own and you have your employees. What if somebody came from a higher entity and sent your people an email? How would you feel about that? Like, doesn't that mess with the structure? And then you being told this thing and this other thing. So just understand it. It's a tough time for people, man. Like, I hold my opinions on a lot of that stuff, man. And I just got to make sure that I do what I need to do in order to try to come up from under it, man. Like, even now, like, I continue to post content about an awesome situation, I think, for service members. Just like for ROTC. I knew nothing about an ROTC program. I knew about JROTC in high school. But when I learned about it, I said, I think this is my thing. Like, I maximized the opportunity on free education for myself. So I share that. So, but the best way I can do that is by being that example. It's not a game for me. It's not it's not one of those day one, follow me type things. Yeah, I'm a certified personal trainer. I've been one for years. Military paid for it. Certified nutrition coach, corporate wellness. I have those hats, but it's really just for myself and with my son. If he ever asks, or friends that I'm close with, I post the videos as suggestions, right? Like, a lot of people are intimidated about what they think they should do in the gym. Or some people just don't have time. So I'll post a circuit. But in order for me to maintain that and me to never be able to make an excuse to put myself in the situation where I was, I created a space. Best investment that I, ever made. So get it in check, man. If you won't reach out, I can tell you what I did. It might not work for you. I can't sell you on the idea that my way is the only way. That doesn't work at all. But I can tell you what I do. I wake up early. If you know that about me, I'm an early bird. I'm very serious about, trying to eat quality whole foods. I stopped drinking March 2011. I knew it just wasn't good for me. And, everybody won't support that journey, that change when you want to better your health. And unfortunately, some of the naysayers and the doubters are people that you might be close with, because you was able to change and they didn't. But that's neither here nor there. You got to take care of you. So that's my spiel for the day. This morning was a post-workout rant.